Today, we are breaking down one of the most intense, one of the most brilliant aerial dogfights of the modern age. We're going to see how a pair of American F-15s flew straight into a perfectly laid trap and what it took to fly their way back out. So I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're in the cockpit. Everything around you is happening at supersonic speed. And then, bam, the one warning you never ever want to see lights up your display. An enemy fighter has you locked on their radar. The hunt has officially begun. All right, let's set the scene. The date is January 19th, 1991. We are right in the thick of Operation Desert Storm. And let me tell you, the skies over Iraq are an absolute hornet's nest. So our main characters today are Captain Rico Rodriguez and his wingman, Captain Mole Underhill. They're flying F-15 Sea Eagles, basically the apex predator of the skies at the time. And their job? Oh, just to clear the way for a massive strike package. We're talking 36 aircraft, all hitting targets near Baghdad. But the Iraqi Air Force has decided to send up their absolute best, the super formidable MiG-29 Fulcrum. Now, this whole thing doesn't just kick off with a head-on charge. No. Instead, it begins with this really calculated tactical dance, a deadly game of cat and mouse at 30,000 feet. So both sides have each other in their sights. You've got two of the most advanced fighters of their day, literally screaming towards each other faster than the speed of sound. Rico selects an AIM-7 Sparrow missile. He's ready to go. But the Iraqis, they've got a plan. Just as Rico is trying to get a lock, something really weird starts to happen. The MiGs just poof. They vanish from his radar. So how are they doing that? I mean, how do you make a 20-ton fighter jet completely invisible? Well, this is where the genius of the Iraqi tactic really comes into play. It's a maneuver called notching or beaming. See, by turning their aircraft exactly 90 degrees, perfectly perpendicular to the F-15's radar, the MiG-29 pilots could just disappear. They were exploiting a known vulnerability in the Doppler radar, which is designed to filter out, stationary things on the ground, like trees and buildings. And you can literally hear the frustration in the actual pilot comms from the engagement. The MiGs would pop up on radar, Rico would try to lock on, and then right before he could fire, they'd notch and vanish again, all while keeping this perfect 12 miles separation. They weren't running away, they were leading him somewhere. And this right here is where the true brilliance of the Iraqi plan is finally revealed. This whole cat and mouse game, that wasn't the fight, not at all. It was the bait for a much more elaborate trap. Check out this 3-layered ambush they set up. So, step 1, the two MiGs we've been following lure the F-15s deeper and deeper into enemy territory. Step 2, they start pulling the Americans towards a dense field of surface-to-air missiles, a really obvious threat designed to be a distraction. But Step 3 was the real killer, a third MiG flying totally silent with its radar off, charging in from their blind spot, ready for the kill shot. Meanwhile, up on an AWACS surveillance plane, a controller named Mark White sees this third MiG just pop up out of nowhere. He realizes the F-15s can't see it, and the distance is just closing so fast, 18 miles, 16. The ambushing MiG is already well within missile range. Now here's the crazy part. White isn't even responsible for their sector anymore, but he knows he has to break protocol. At 14 miles, he makes the call to intervene. That's the call. Simple, direct, and it arrives just in the absolute nick of time. This is the warning that completely changes the outcome of this entire fight. The second he hears that call, Rico instantly dumps his external fuel tanks and yanks his F-15 into a hard left turn, pointing his nose and that powerful radar directly at the new threat. The trap has been sprung, and now it's a head-on fight for survival. And there it is. The ambushing MiG appears on his radar just 8 miles away. But, and this is a huge but, there is a problem. The rules of engagement state that any target inside 10 miles has to be visually identified before you can fire. Now, this is to prevent friendly fire, which makes sense. But when you're closing at supersonic speeds, it is an unbelievably dangerous rule to have to follow. So before Rico can even get close enough for that visual ID, his entire cockpit just screams with a lock alert. The Iraqi pilot has turned on his radar and has locked onto Rico's F-15. A missile is literally seconds away from launch. Rico's response is pure, unadulterated pilot instinct. He rolls his eagle completely upside down and he yanks the stick back, throwing himself into this terrifying vertical dive, just screaming towards the desert floor at the speed of sound, doing everything he can to break that enemy radar lock. He is plummeting towards the desert. Now, while all this is happening, his wingman Mole finally gets clearance to fire. Rico wrenches the plane out of its dive at just 500 feet above the ground. I mean, a split second later, and it would have been all over. So as Rico is pulling out of that insane dive, Mole unleashes an AIM-7 Sparrow missile. Rico looks up and actually sees the smoke trail streak right past him, and then he watches as it slams directly into the ambushing MiG, which just evaporates in a flash of light and a little smudge of black smoke. Splash one. But it is not over, not by a long shot. The AWACS controller immediately calls out the last remaining MiG, one of the original bait planes, just 10 miles to the north. Their main mission is done, but that enemy is way too close to just turn your back on. They have to finish the fight. So as Rico locks onto this last bandit, Mole's system suddenly identifies the contact as a friendly aircraft. And for a second, there's just this cold dread. Could they be about to shoot down one of their own guys? Mole is trusting the system. But Rico is trusting his gut. He is sure it's another MiG. The only way to know for sure is to get eyes on it. So Rico firewalls the throttle and rockets towards the mystery plane, pulling up and roaring to within 50 feet of it. As he blows past, he looks down through his canopy and sees it, clear as day, the green camouflage and the Iraqi flag. It's a MiG-29. What happens next is just a classic, turning, gut-wrenching dogfight. Rico pulls his F-15 into a turn so hard, he's being crushed by 10 Gs of force. That's 10 times the force of gravity, folks, pushing the aircraft and his own body to their absolute breaking points just to get into a firing position. And Rico is gaining on him. You can almost feel the Iraqi pilot's panic, seeing that F-15 closing in. In this last-ditch, desperate move to escape, he rolls over and pulls hard, diving for the ground. But he's out of altitude, and he's out of time. Rico watches as the MiG pilot fights to pull the nose up, but it's just not enough. The jet slams straight into the desert floor. You know, this whole engagement was a masterclass in tactics from both sides. That Iraqi ambush was nearly perfect. But in the end, when the technology and the training are basically equal, maybe victory is decided by something far more elemental. Maybe it comes down to the human will to survive and the willingness to push just that little bit harder than your opponent.